Blood dripped from Amara's trembling hands as she stood in the middle of the dark room. Her 5 friends lay scattered across the floor, their eyes wide open, staring at nothing. The candles on the wooden table flickered, casting dancing shadows on the walls. "What have I done?" Amara whispered, her voice shaking. But she hadn't done anything. Or had she? Just 2 hours ago, they were all laughing together, celebrating their friendship. Now everything was different. Everything was wrong. And somewhere in the darkness, someone was watching her. Drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. Don't forget to subscribe to support our channel. 2 days earlier, Amara lived in a small village called Ajadai, surrounded by thick forests and old trees. She was 12 years old, with bright eyes and a smile that could light up any room. She had 5 best friends: Chioma, Tund, Ngozi, Emeka, and Kemi. They had been friends since they were little children, playing together in the dusty streets and sharing secrets under the mango tree. The 6 friends did everything together. They walked to school together, ate lunch together, and even got in trouble together. Their friendship was like a strong rope that nothing could break. Or so they thought. It was Friday afternoon when Chioma came running to Amara's house. Her face was red from running, and she was breathing hard. "Amara! Amara!" she called out, jumping over the small wooden fence. Amara rushed out from the backyard where she was helping her mother hang clothes. "What's wrong? Why are you running like a goat is chasing you?" Chioma bent over, trying to catch her breath. "I found something. Something amazing. You won't believe it." "What did you find?" "An old house, deep in the forest. It's perfect for us." Amara's eyes grew wide. Everyone in the village knew about the old houses in the forest. The elders always warned children to stay away from them. They said strange things happen there. Bad things. "Chioma, we're not supposed to go near those houses. You know what the elders say." Chioma waved her hand like she was shooing away a fly. "Those are just old stories to scare children. I went there today and nothing happened to me. The house is empty and clean. We can make it our secret meeting place." Amara felt her stomach twist. Something didn't feel right. But Chioma was her best friend, and she trusted her. "Did you tell the others?" Amara asked. "Not yet. I wanted to tell you first. You're the leader of our group. If you say yes, everyone will agree." Amara thought for a moment. Having their own secret place did sound exciting. A place where they could go without their parents bothering them. A place that was just theirs. "Okay," Amara said slowly. "But we all go together. Nobody goes alone." Chioma's face broke into a huge smile. "Yes, I knew you would say yes. Let's tell the others now." The plan. That evening, the 6 friends met under their favorite mango tree. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. Mosquitoes buzzed around them, but they were too excited to notice. Tund was the tallest of the group, with long legs and a deep voice for a 12-year-old. A secret hideout? That sounds great. Ngozi, who was the quietest one, looked worried. But what if something bad happens? What if we get lost in the forest? Emeka laughed. He was always laughing, even when things weren't funny. "Nothing will happen. We're not babies anymore. Besides, Chioma already went there and came back fine." Kemi, who loved reading stories, leaned forward. "What does the house look like? Is it scary?" Chioma shook her head. "It's not scary at all. It's actually beautiful. There are wooden chairs inside, and a big table in the middle. The walls are painted white, and there are windows that let in lots of light. It's perfect." Amara noticed something strange in Chioma's eyes when she talked about the house. A strange shine, like she was hiding something. But before Amara could ask about it, Tund spoke up. "So when do we go?" "Tomorrow night," Chioma said quickly. "My parents are traveling to the city. We can sneak out after dark." "Why at night?" Ngozi asked, her voice small. "Why can't we go during the day?" "Because," Chioma said, looking at each of them, "it's more fun at night, more adventurous, and our parents won't know we're gone." Something in Amara's chest tightened. The uncomfortable feeling was growing stronger. But all her friends were nodding and agreeing. She didn't want to be the one to ruin their excitement. "Okay," Amara said. "Tomorrow night, but we stick together. No one wanders off alone." Everyone agreed. They made plans to meet at the edge of the village at 9 o'clock, when the moon would be high in the sky. Then they went home, each one excited about their secret adventure. But as Amara walked home, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The wind felt colder than usual. The birds in the trees had stopped singing. Even the usual sounds of the village seemed quieter. The warning. That night, Amara couldn't sleep. She tossed and turned on her mat, thinking about the old house in the forest. Finally, she got up and went to the kitchen for some water. Her grandmother was sitting there, even though it was very late. She was old, with gray hair and eyes that seemed to see everything. She looked at Amara and patted the wooden stool next to her. "Come, sit with me, child." Amara sat down. Her grandmother's face looked serious in the lamplight. "I heard you and your friends talking today," her grandmother said softly, "about going to the old house in the forest." Amara's heart jumped. "Grandma, Her grandmother raised her hand. "Listen to me carefully. That house is not safe. Many years ago, something terrible happened there. 6 friends, just like you and your group, went to that house. They wanted to play a game that promised to make their deepest wishes come true." "What happened to them?" Amara whispered. "Only one came back. The others." Her grandmother's voice trailed off. "They were never seen again. The one who came back was never the same." She couldn't speak. She couldn't sleep. Her eyes were always wide with fear, like she had seen something no child should ever see. Amara felt goosebumps rise on her arms. What did she see? She never told anyone, but she drew pictures. Pictures of shadows with no bodies. Pictures of faces that weren't human. Pictures of her friends, but they didn't look like themselves anymore. The lamp flickered, making the shadows dance on the walls. Amara moved closer to her grandmother. "Promise me you won't go to that house," her grandmother said, gripping Amara's hand. "Promise me." Amara wanted to promise. She wanted to tell her friends the plan was cancelled. But she thought about Chioma's excited face. She thought about how they had all agreed to go. If she backed out now, they might think she was scared. They might make fun of her. "I promise, Grandma," Amara lied. Her grandmother looked into her eyes for a long moment. Then she sighed and let go of her hand. "Go to sleep now. And remember, not all friends are what they seem." Amara went back to her mat, but she didn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling, wondering what her grandmother meant. Not all friends are what they seem. What did that mean? The journey begins. The next day moved slowly. Every hour felt like it was taking forever to pass. Amara went through her usual activities, helping her mother with chores and doing her homework. But her mind was somewhere else. When evening came, she told her parents she was going to Kemi's house to study. They believed her because she never lied to them. The guilt felt heavy in her stomach, but she pushed it away. At exactly 9 o'clock, Amara reached the edge of the village. The others were already there, standing in a circle. The moon was big and bright in the sky, but somehow it didn't make her feel better. The light it gave was cold and silver. "Everyone ready?" Chioma asked. She was carrying a backpack that looked heavy. "What's in the bag?" Tund asked. "Supplies," Chioma said. "Candles, matches, some food. Just in case we want to stay for a while." "How long are we planning to stay?" Ngozi asked nervously. "As long as we want," Chioma said with a strange smile. "It's our place now." They started walking into the forest. The trees were thick and tall, blocking out some of the moonlight. Their footsteps crunched on dry leaves and small branches. In the distance, they could hear animals moving through the bushes. Emeka kept making jokes, trying to lighten the mood. "What do you call a scared tree?" "Afraid." Nobody laughed. The forest felt different at night. During the day, it was just a forest. But at night, it felt alive in a way that wasn't friendly. After walking for about 20 minutes, Kemi stopped. "I think we're lost." "Chioma, are you sure you know where you're going?" "Of course I'm sure," Chioma said. But she didn't turn around. She just kept walking forward. Amara noticed something strange. Chioma seemed to know exactly where she was going. She didn't hesitate or look around. She walked straight ahead, like she had made this journey many times before. "Chioma," Amara called out. "How many times have you been to this house?" Chioma stopped walking. For a moment, she was completely still. Then she turned around slowly. In the moonlight, her face looked different. Her smile was too wide, and her eyes reflected the light like an animal's eyes. "Does it matter?" Chioma asked. "Yes," Amara said firmly. "It matters. Tell us the truth." The other four friends looked at Chioma, waiting for her answer. The forest around them seemed to hold its breath. "Fine," Chioma said. "I've been there 5 times. Maybe 6. 6 times. Tun's voice was loud with surprise. "You said you just found it yesterday." "I lied," Chioma said simply. "I found it 2 weeks ago. I've been going there every night since then." Ngozi took a step back. "Every night? Why would you go there every night?" "Because," Chioma said, and now her voice sounded different, older somehow. "The house showed me things. Beautiful things. Promised to give us everything we ever wanted. But it needs all 6 of us. It won't work with just me." Amara's blood ran cold. Her grandmother's warning echoed in her mind. Not all friends are what they seem. "We're going back," Amara said. "Right now." "No," Chioma said, and her voice was hard as stone. "We're not. We're almost there. I said we're going back," Amara repeated, louder this time. But before anyone could move, they heard it. A sound that made their hearts stop. It was coming from deeper in the forest. A sound like laughter, but not human laughter. It was high and sharp like glass breaking. "What was that?" Kemi whispered, moving closer to the group. The laughter came again, closer this time. And then they saw it. Through the trees there was a light. A warm, yellow light, like lamplight from a house. "There it is," Chioma said, pointing. "Our new home." The 5 friends looked at each other. They were scared, but they were also curious. The house sat in a clearing, surrounded by tall grass. It looked exactly like Chioma had described. White walls, wooden windows, a strong roof. It looked normal, safe even. "Come on," Chioma said, already walking toward the house. "There's nothing to be afraid of." Against their better judgment, they followed her. What else could they do? They were deep in the forest, and the path back seemed unclear now. The trees all looked the same in the darkness. As they got closer to the house, Amara noticed something. The windows were glowing with light, but she couldn't see any lamps inside. And the grass around the house wasn't moving, even though there was wind blowing through the trees. They reached the door. It was made of dark wood, with strange symbols carved into it. Symbols that hurt to look at, like they were moving even though they were still. Chioma put her hand on the door handle. "Ready." "Wait," Amara said. "I don't think." But Chioma had already opened the door. The inside of the house was beautiful. There was a long wooden table in the middle, with 6 wooden stools around it. Candles were lit on the table, but nobody had lit them. The walls were painted white and clean, just like Chioma said. But there was something wrong with the air. Felt thick like breathing water. "See," Chioma said, spreading her arms wide. "I told you it was perfect." One by one they walked inside. The door closed behind them with a soft click. When Tun tried to open it again, it wouldn't budge. "It's stuck," he said, pushing harder. "The door won't open." "Don't worry," Chioma said. "It always does that. It will open when we're ready to leave." "How do you know?" Ngozi asked, her voice shaking. Chioma didn't answer. Instead, she walked to the table and put down her backpack. "Everyone sit down. I want to show you something amazing." They sat down on the wooden stools. Amara chose the one closest to the door, just in case. The candlelight made everyone's faces look strange, with shadows in places where shadows shouldn't be. Chioma pulled something out of her backpack. It was a book. An old book with a black cover and no title. The pages looked yellow and fragile, like they might fall apart if you touched them. "What is that?" Emeka asked, his usual jokes forgotten. This, Chioma said, placing the book on the table, is the Book of Wishes. I found it here on my first visit. It grants wishes, real wishes, anything we want. Kemi leaned forward, interested despite her fear. Any wish, Chioma confirmed. But there's a rule. All 6 of us have to participate. That's why I brought you all here. What kind of rule? Amara asked. Chioma opened the book. The pages were covered in writing, but not in any language Amara recognized. The letters seemed to move and change shape as she looked at them. We each make a wish, Chioma explained. We write our name in the book, and we say our wish out loud. Then we hold hands around the table and wait. Wait for what? Tund asked. For the magic to work. The 6 friends looked at each other. Part of them wanted to run. Part of them wanted to stay. The promise of wishes coming true was too tempting. I'll go first, Chioma said. She took a candle and held it over one of the pages. The wax dripped onto the paper, forming a small pool. Then she used her finger to write her name in the hot wax. I wish to be the most popular girl in school. Nothing happened. The candles kept burning. The room stayed the same. See, Chioma said. Nothing bad happens. Who's next? Emeka raised his hand. I'll go. He repeated what Chioma did, writing his name in wax. I wish to be the funniest person in the village. Still nothing happened. One by one they each made their wishes. Tund wished to be the fastest runner. Ngozi wished to be brave. Kemi wished to have all the books in the world. Finally, only Amara was left. Everyone was looking at her. Your turn, Chioma said, pushing the book toward her. Amara stared at the book. Something about it felt wrong. The pages seemed to pulse, like they were breathing. And in the candlelight, she could swear she saw words appearing and disappearing on their own. I don't want to, Amara said quietly. What? Chioma's face changed. Her smile disappeared. You have to. The magic won't work without all 6 of us. I said I don't want to. Amara, please, Kemi said. We've all done it. It's just a game. It's not a game, Amara said, standing up. And we need to leave. Now. That's when it happened. The candles on the table went out all at the same time. The room plunged into darkness. And in that darkness they heard breathing. Not their breathing. Something else's breathing. Chioma? Ngozi's voice was tiny with fear. What's happening? The candles lit up again. But now the light was different. It was red like blood. And the faces of her 5 friends looked strange. Their eyes were different, empty somehow. You shouldn't have refused, Chioma said. But her voice sounded wrong, like multiple voices speaking at once. The house doesn't like it when people refuse. Amara backed away from the table. What did you do, Chioma? What did you really bring us here for? Chioma smiled, and her smile was too wide for her face. I brought you here because the house was hungry. It needed 6 souls. But it promised if I brought 5 others, it would let me go free and give me everything I wanted. You betrayed us, Tund said, his voice thick with hurt. We were your friends. Friends. Chioma laughed, and it was that same glass-breaking sound they had heard in the forest. I was tired of being friends. I wanted to be special. And now I will be. The red light grew brighter. The shadows on the walls began to move, forming shapes. Shapes with long arms and no faces. Shapes that reached toward them with fingers like spider legs. Amara ran to the door and pulled with all her strength. It wouldn't open. She pounded on it with her fists. Help! Somebody help us! But they were deep in the forest. Nobody could hear them. The shadow shapes came closer. Emeka screamed. Kemi tried to climb out a window, but the window was sealed shut, even though it looked open. Tund grabbed a stool and threw it at the shadows, but it passed right through them. Please, Ngozi begged Chioma. We're your friends. Don't do this. Too late, Chioma said. She was standing by the book now, and her body was starting to glow with the same red light. The wish has been made. The price must be paid. The shadows wrapped around Emeka first. He screamed and screamed, but no sound came out after the first moment. His eyes went wide, staring at nothing. Then he collapsed to the floor, completely still. "No!" Amara screamed. "Stop it! Stop it right now!" But the shadows didn't stop. They moved to Tund next, then Kemi, then Ngozi. One by one, her friends fell to the floor, their eyes open but empty. Amara was alone now, standing with her back against the door. The shadows surrounded her, moving closer and closer. In their darkness, she could see faces. Hundreds of faces. Thousands. All the people who had come to this house before, all the souls it had taken. "Your turn," the shadows whispered. "Your turn, your turn, your turn." Chioma watched with those empty eyes. "I'm sorry, Amara, but this was the only way." The shadows reached out for Amara. She closed her eyes and thought of her grandmother's warning. Not all friends are what they seem. Her grandmother had been right. She had been right about everything. The cold touch of the shadows was on her arm now, spreading up toward her chest. In seconds, she would be just like the others. Empty. Gone. But then Amara remembered something. Something her grandmother had told her once, when she was very small. Prayer. The oldest prayer in their village, passed down from the very first people who lived there. A prayer that could break bad magic. With the last of her strength, Amara opened her mouth and spoke the words. They came out in a language she didn't know she remembered, old words from old times. The shadows hissed and pulled back, like they had been burned. The red light flickered. The house shook. And for just a moment, Amara saw what the house really was. Not a beautiful white house, but a thing made of bones and darkness, held together with stolen souls. "No!" Chioma screamed. "What are you doing? You'll ruin everything." Amara kept speaking the prayer, louder now. The shadows were retreating to the corners of the room. The book on the table began to smoke and burn. The last thing Amara saw before everything went black was Chioma's face, changing from human to something else, something ancient and hungry and angry. Then the world exploded in light and sound. Subscribe to this channel to support our growth and find out what happens next in Chapter 2. Amara opened her eyes slowly. Everything hurt. Her head felt like someone had hit it with a rock. Her arms and legs were heavy, like they were made of stone. For a moment, she couldn't remember where she was or what had happened. Then it all came rushing back. The house, the shadows, her friends lying on the floor. Chioma's betrayal. Amara sat up quickly, ignoring the pain. She was still in the house, but something was different. The red light was gone. Now early morning sunlight was streaming through the windows. The candles on the table had melted down to nothing but puddles of wax. And her friends. "No, no, no," Amara whispered, crawling toward them. Tund, Emeka, Kemi, and Ngozi were still lying on the floor, exactly where they had fallen. Their eyes were closed now, and they weren't moving. Amara's heart felt like it was breaking into a million pieces. "Please wake up," she begged, shaking Tund's shoulder. "Please, please wake up." But they didn't move. They weren't breathing. Amara put her ear to Tund's chest, listening for a heartbeat. Nothing. She checked Emeka, then Kemi, then Ngozi. All the same. No heartbeat. No breath. No life. Tears poured down Amara's face. This was her fault. She should have refused to come. She should have made them all go home. She should have listened to her grandmother. "What have I done?" she cried. "What have I done?" That's when she heard a soft laugh from behind her. Amara spun around, her heart racing. Chioma was sitting in the corner of the room, leaning against the wall. But she looked different now. Her skin was pale, almost gray. Dark circles sat under her eyes, which were no longer empty but filled with sadness and fear. She looked sick, dying even. "You broke the spell," Chioma said, her voice weak. "You actually broke it. I didn't think that was possible." Amara stood up, anger burning in her chest. "You killed them. You killed our friends." "I didn't kill them," Chioma said, coughing. "The house did. I just brought them here." "That's the same thing," Amara screamed. "You betrayed us. We trusted you." Chioma looked down at her hands. They were shaking. I know what I did. And now I'm paying the price. What do you mean? Chioma lifted her shirt slightly. Amara gasped. Black veins were spreading across Chioma's stomach, like dark roots growing under her skin. They pulsed with each breath she took. The house made me a promise, Chioma explained. It said if I brought 5 friends, it would let me go free and give me everything I wanted. But when you broke the spell with that prayer, the deal changed. Now the house wants to take me instead. Good, Amara said coldly. You deserve it. Chioma flinched like she'd been slapped. You're right. I do deserve it. But before I die, you need to know something. Your friends aren't dead. Amara's breath caught in her throat. What? They're not dead, Chioma repeated. Their souls are trapped. The house took them, but it didn't destroy them. They're somewhere inside this place. Locked away. Hope flared in Amara's chest like a match being lit. How do I get them back? The book, Chioma said, nodding toward the table. The Book of Wishes. Still here even though I tried to burn it. That book is the heart of this house. If you can destroy it properly, all the souls it has trapped will be freed. Amara looked at the table. Sure enough, the black book was still there, sitting in a pile of ash. It looked exactly the same as before, not burned at all. How do I destroy it? Amara asked. I don't know, Chioma admitted. Fire doesn't work. I tried that before you all came here. Water doesn't work either. The book protects itself. Then how? Wait, Chioma interrupted. She closed her eyes, thinking hard. There was something I read in the book before it started controlling me. It said the book can only be destroyed by someone who refuses its power. Someone who rejects a wish even when they want it most. I already refused, Amara said. I refused to make a wish last night. But did you really refuse? Chioma asked, opening her eyes. Or did you just not make a wish because you were scared? There's a difference. You have to truly reject the book's power. You have to want nothing from it, even when it offers you everything you've ever dreamed of. Amara walked slowly to the table. The book sat there, innocent looking in the morning light. She reached out her hand, hesitating just before touching it. Be careful, Chioma warned. Once you touch it, the book will know what you want most in the world. It will offer it to you, and it will make that offer so tempting, so real, that refusing will be the hardest thing you've ever done. I can do it, Amara said, trying to sound brave, but inside she was terrified. One more thing, Chioma said. If you fail, if you make a wish, then we're all trapped here forever, including you. Amara's hand was shaking now. She thought about her grandmother at home, probably worried sick. She thought about her parents who would be searching for her. She thought about her 4 friends lying on the floor, their souls locked somewhere in this terrible house. She had to try. She had no choice. Amara placed her hand on the book's cover. Inside the book. The moment Amara touched the book, the world changed. She was no longer in the house. She was standing in her village, but it looked different. Better. The houses were bigger and painted in bright colors. The streets were paved and clean. Everyone she passed was smiling and waving at her. Amara! Amara! Children called out, running toward her. She recognized them. They were younger kids from school, ones who usually ignored her or made fun of her for being quiet. But now they were looking at her like she was the most important person in the world. Tell us a story, one little girl begged. Please tell us one of your amazing stories. Amara blinked in confusion. My stories? You're the most famous storyteller in Nigeria, an older boy said. Everyone knows your name. You're on TV and everything. Suddenly, Amara understood. This was the book's trick. It was showing her a world where her biggest dream had come true. She had always wanted to be a storyteller, to share the old tales her grandmother taught her. But she was too shy to speak in front of people. In this vision, she wasn't shy anymore. She was confident and loved by everyone. This isn't real, Amara said out loud. This is just a trick. The scene changed. Now she was in a big house, bigger than any house in her village. Her parents were there, but they looked younger and healthier. Her mother, who always had pain in her back from working too hard, was standing straight and smiling. Her father, who worked 2 jobs and was always tired, looked rested and happy. "Amara, my daughter," her father said, hugging her tight. "Thanks to your success, we never have to worry about money again. You've taken care of our whole family." Amara's eyes filled with tears. This was what she wanted more than anything: to help her parents, to make their lives easier, to repay them for all the sacrifices they made for her. A voice whispered in her ear, soft as silk, "Just make one wish, one small wish, and all of this can be real. Your parents will never suffer again. You'll be famous and loved. Everyone will respect you. All you have to do is say yes." "No," Amara whispered, but her voice shook. "This isn't real." The scene changed again. This time she was at a hospital. Her grandmother was lying in a bed, looking old and sick. Amara remembered this day. It had happened last year. Her grandmother had been very ill, and they thought she might die. Amara had been so scared. But in this vision, a doctor was walking toward her with a smile on his face. "Good news," the doctor said. "We found a cure. Your grandmother will live for many more years. Healthy, strong years. She'll get to see you grow up, get married, have children of your own." Amara's breath caught. Her grandmother was the most important person in her life. The thought of having more time with her, more years to learn from her wisdom, "All you have to do," the whisper came again, "is wish for it. Wish for your grandmother to be healthy. Is that so wrong? Isn't that a good wish? A selfless wish?" Amara's hand moved toward the air, as if to write her name in invisible wax. Her mouth started to form the words, "I wish." Then she stopped. She remembered something her grandmother had said on one of their quiet nights together. They had been talking about life and death, and Amara had said she wished her grandmother could live forever. Her grandmother had smiled sadly and said, "Child, death is part of life. When my time comes, I will go peacefully, knowing I've lived well. Don't wish to change the natural way of things. That path leads only to pain." "No," Amara said, louder this time. She pulled her hand back. "I won't wish for this, even though I want it, even though it hurts to refuse. I won't do it." The hospital scene shattered like glass. Now she was back in darkness, standing in an empty black space. The whisper came again, but now it sounded angry. "Foolish child, I offered you everything. Your dreams, your family's happiness, your grandmother's life, and you refused." "Yes," Amara said firmly, "because none of it is real. And even if it were, wishes that come from dark magic always have a price. A price that someone else has to pay." "Then you will have nothing," the voice screamed. "You will lose everything." "Maybe," Amara said, "but at least I'll lose it honestly." Light exploded around her. Amara felt like she was being pulled apart and put back together at the same time. She heard screaming, the sound of breaking wood, the rush of wind. Then everything stopped. The price of truth. Amara opened her eyes. She was back in the house, lying on the floor next to the table. The book was in her hand, but it felt different. Lighter. She looked down at it. The black cover was cracking, turning to dust. The pages inside were browning and curling, like paper burning in slow motion. The strange symbols and letters were fading away, disappearing into nothing. "You did it!" Chioma's voice came from the corner. She sounded surprised. "You actually did it." Amara sat up and looked around. Her 4 friends were still lying on the floor, but something was happening to them. A soft, golden light was rising from their bodies, like mist in the morning. The light swirled and danced, then slowly sank back into them. Tun's chest moved. He took a breath, then another. "They're breathing!" Amara cried, scrambling over to them. One by one, her friends began to wake up. Their eyes fluttered open. They looked confused and scared, but they were alive. Kemi sat up first, looking around wildly. What happened? Where are we?" "The house," Ngozi said, her voice trembling. "We're still in the house. I had the strangest dream, Emeka said. I was floating in darkness, and I could hear voices. Hundreds of voices, all crying and calling for help. Tun stood up slowly, his legs shaking. Me too. It was like being asleep but not sleeping. Like being nowhere and everywhere at once. They all turned to look at Amara. Then they saw the book in her hand. Now nothing but dust and ash. Then they saw Chioma in the corner. You, Tun said, his voice hard with anger. You did this to us. Chioma didn't argue. She just nodded, tears streaming down her face. I did. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry isn't good enough, Kemi said. You tried to kill us. I know, Chioma said. And now I'm dying for it. They all looked at her more closely. The black veins had spread further. They covered her arms and neck now, reaching up toward her face. She was breathing hard, each breath seeming to hurt. The book's curse is transferring to me, Chioma explained. When Amara destroyed the book, all the dark magic had to go somewhere. It's going into me because I was the one who made the deal. Amara felt a strange mix of emotions. Part of her was still angry at Chioma for what she'd done, but another part of her felt sorry for her. Chioma had been their friend once, before the house corrupted her. Is there any way to save you? Amara asked. Chioma shook her head. I don't think so. I made my choice. Now I have to face the consequences. No, Ngozi said suddenly. Everyone looked at her in surprise. Ngozi, who was usually so quiet and afraid. No, there has to be a way. Chioma made a terrible mistake, but she's still our friend. We don't leave our friends behind. She left us behind, Emeka pointed out. And that was wrong, Ngozi agreed. But if we leave her now, we're no better than she was. The 5 friends looked at each other. It was a hard decision. Chioma had betrayed them. She had brought them to this evil place and offered them up like sacrifices. But she had also been their friend for years before that. They had shared so many good memories together. The prayer, Amara said suddenly. The prayer I used to break the spell. Maybe it can help. That prayer pushed back the shadows, Chioma said. But this is different. This is inside me now. I don't think. We have to try, Amara interrupted. She walked over to Chioma and knelt beside her. I need you all to join me. Hold hands in a circle around Chioma. The others hesitated for a moment. Then slowly they joined hands. Tund, Emeka, Kemi, and Ngozi formed a circle around Chioma, with Amara at the head. They could see the black veins pulsing under her skin, spreading closer to her heart with each second. Amara closed her eyes and began to speak the prayer. The old words flowed from her mouth, words in a language she didn't understand but somehow knew. Her grandmother's voice echoed in her memory, teaching her these sacred words when she was small. First, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the others began to speak too. They didn't know the words, but they hummed along, adding their voices to Amara's. The sound grew louder, filling the room with a warm, golden light. The black veins in Chioma's body began to slow. Then they stopped spreading. Then, amazingly, they started to retreat, pulling back down her arms and away from her heart. It's working, Kemi shouted. Keep going. They spoke louder, their voices joining together in perfect harmony. The light grew brighter and brighter until they had to close their eyes against it. They could feel heat, but it wasn't the hot heat of fire. It was the warm heat of the sun, of life, of hope. When the light finally faded and they opened their eyes, Chioma's skin was clear. The black veins were gone. She was still pale and weak, but she was alive. You saved me, Chioma whispered, looking at each of them in wonder. After everything I did, you saved me. That's what friends do, Ngozi said simply. Chioma started crying. Not quiet tears, but big, body-shaking sobs. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. The book, it got inside my head. It made me believe I wanted things I never really wanted. It made me think you were holding me back instead of lifting me up. We know, Amara said, putting her hand on Chioma's shoulder. We're angry at you. We might be angry for a long time, But we're not going to leave you behind. Can you all stand? Tund asked. We need to get out of this house before something else happens. They helped each other up. Chioma could barely walk, so Tund and Emeka supported her on either side. They moved toward the door, the same door that had been locked before. Amara reached for the handle, expecting it to be stuck again. But this time it opened easily. Cool morning air rushed in, smelling of trees and earth and freedom. They stepped outside, and Amara took a deep breath. The sun was rising fully now, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Birds were singing. The forest, which had seemed so scary at night, looked almost normal in the daylight. Look, Kemi said, pointing back at the house. They all turned. The house was changing. The white walls were turning gray and crumbling. The roof was caving in. The windows were breaking. In just a few seconds, the whole structure collapsed into a pile of rotting wood and dust, as if it had been abandoned for 100 years instead of just one night. It's really over, Ngozi breathed. The house is destroyed. Not destroyed, Amara corrected. Just revealed. This is what it really was all along. We just couldn't see it because of the magic. As they watched, small lights began to rise from the ruins of the house. Dozens of them. Hundreds. Each one was a soul that had been trapped, now finally free. The lights floated up into the morning sky like glowing bubbles, disappearing into the clouds. All those people, Emeka said quietly. All those souls the house had taken. They're free now, Amara said, because we refused to feed it, because we chose each other over selfish wishes. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the last of the lights fade into the sky. Then Chioma spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. What happens now? Will you tell our parents what I did? Will you tell the village? The 5 friends looked at each other. It was a good question. What would they say? How would they explain what had happened? We tell them we got lost in the forest, Tund said finally. We tell them we stayed in an old shelter until morning, then found our way home. But that's lying, Ngozi protested. Sometimes, Kemi said thoughtfully, a small lie is better than a complicated truth that no one will believe anyway. Amara nodded. We'll tell them we got lost, and we'll never speak of this house again. Not to adults, not to other kids. This stays between us 6. Agreed, they all said together, even Chioma. They started walking back toward the village. The path seemed much clearer now, easy to follow. Or maybe they could just see better in the daylight. As they walked, Amara noticed something strange. She could see symbols carved into some of the trees. Old symbols, like the ones that had been on the door of the house. They formed a path, leading deeper into the forest, away from the village. Do you see those? She asked the others. They all looked where she was pointing. Tund squinted. I don't see anything. Just trees. Me neither, Kemi said. But Amara could see them clearly. The symbols were glowing faintly in the morning light, calling to her, showing her something. What do you see? Ngozi asked. Nothing, Amara lied. Just thought I saw something. Let's keep moving. But as they walked, Amara kept looking back at those symbols. They seemed to be leading somewhere important, and deep in her gut, she had a feeling that their adventure wasn't really over. The house might be destroyed, but something else was out there in the forest. Something the symbols were trying to show her. Something connected to the old magic of their village. She shook her head. No, they had been through enough. Whatever those symbols were showing her, it could wait. It had to wait. Right now, all she wanted was to get home, hug her grandmother, and sleep in her own bed. They reached the edge of the village just as the sun fully rose above the horizon. People were starting to wake up, beginning their morning routines. Everything looked normal, peaceful, safe. We should split up here, Tund suggested. Go to our own houses. Our parents probably haven't noticed we're gone yet. Okay, they agreed. But we meet at the mango tree this afternoon. We need to talk about everything. One by one, they separated, each heading to their own home. Amara walked slowly, her legs tired and her mind full of thoughts. When she reached her house, She could see her grandmother sitting outside, exactly where she always sat in the morning. Her grandmother looked up as Amara approached. Their eyes met, and Amara saw that her grandmother knew. She knew Amara had been to the house. She knew something had happened, but she didn't say anything. She just opened her arms. Amara ran to her and hugged her tight, finally letting herself cry. All the fear and pain and confusion poured out in tears. "You're safe now," her grandmother whispered, stroking her hair. "You're home. You're safe." "I should have listened to you," Amara sobbed. "You warned me, and I didn't listen." "Hush now. You survived. You learned. Sometimes that's how wisdom comes to us, through hard lessons." They sat there together as the village woke up around them. Amara didn't tell her grandmother what had happened. She didn't need to. Somehow, her grandmother already understood. Later that day, when Amara went to meet her friends at the mango tree, she found something strange. Chioma wasn't there. "Has anyone seen Chioma?" she asked. The others shook their heads. "I went to her house," Tun said. "Her mother said she was sleeping and couldn't come out." "Same here," Emeka added. "Her mother said she was sick." A cold feeling settled in Amara's stomach. "Do you think something's wrong? Did the curse come back?" "I don't know," Kemi said worriedly. "Should we go check on her?" Before they could decide, they saw someone running toward them. It was Chioma's younger brother, Chidi. He was out of breath and looked scared. "Please," he gasped. "Please come. Something's wrong with Chioma. She won't wake up." The 5 friends looked at each other in horror. Then they ran, following Chidi back to Chioma's house as fast as their legs could carry them. When they burst into Chioma's room, they found her lying on her mat. Her eyes were closed, and she wasn't moving. Her mother was kneeling beside her, shaking her shoulder and calling her name. "She won't wake up," her mother cried. "I've tried everything. What's wrong with her?" Amara moved closer and looked at Chioma carefully. There were no black veins. Her breathing seemed normal, but there was something wrong with her face. It looked empty somehow, like nobody was home inside. That's when Amara saw it. On Chioma's hand, written in what looked like ash, were strange symbols. The same symbols Amara had seen on the trees. The symbols that had been calling to her. Amara's blood ran cold. She understood now. The curse hadn't completely left Chioma. Or rather, a piece of the house's magic was still attached to her, and it was pulling her toward something. Toward whatever those symbols in the forest were leading to. "We need to talk," Amara whispered to the others. "Outside. Now." They made excuses to Chioma's mother and stepped outside. Once they were alone, Amara told them about the symbols she'd seen in the forest. The ones that seemed to form a path. "I think Chioma's soul is trapped again," she said. "Not by the house this time, but by something else. Something connected to the house. Something older." "But we destroyed the book," Ngozi protested. "We freed all the souls. How can this be happening?" "The book was just one piece," Amara realized. "Just one piece of something bigger. The house, the book, the symbols, they're all connected to something deeper. Something that's been in this forest for a very long time." "So what do we do?" Tund asked. Amara looked back toward the forest, where the symbols had been glowing on the trees. She thought about her friend lying in that room, trapped in sleep, her soul taken again. She thought about all they'd been through already, how close they'd come to losing everything. But she also thought about what Ngozi had said in the house. "We don't leave our friends behind. We go back," Amara said quietly. "We follow the symbols. We find out what took Chioma's soul, and we get it back." "Are you crazy?" Emeka asked. "We barely survived last time. You want to go back into that forest?" "I don't want to," Amara admitted. "I'm terrified, but what choice do we have? Chioma saved us by warning us about the book. She gave us the information we needed to survive. Now it's our turn to save her." The 4 friends looked at each other. The decision hung in the air between them, heavy and hard. Finally, Kemi spoke. "When do we leave?" "Tonight," Amara said. "When the moon rises." The symbols were glowing in daylight, so they'll probably be even clearer at night. This is insane, Emeka muttered, but he didn't say no. We need to prepare, Tun said. Bring supplies this time, rope, water, food, and we need to be smarter than last time. No more splitting up. No more secrets. They agreed to meet at the edge of the village at midnight. Each one would bring something useful, and this time they would be ready for whatever the forest threw at them. As the sun began to set that evening, Amara sat with her grandmother again. She wanted to tell her everything. She wanted to ask for help, but she knew her grandmother couldn't come with them. This was something they had to do themselves. You're going back into the forest, aren't you? Her grandmother asked suddenly. Amara's head snapped up. How did you? I see the determination in your eyes. The same look I had when I was young and foolish and thought I could save the world. Her grandmother smiled sadly. You're going to try to save your friend. I have to, Amara said. It's my fault she's trapped. If I had convinced everyone not to go last night, none of this would have happened. It's not your fault. Everyone made their own choice. But her grandmother pulled something from her pocket. It was a small wooden charm, carved in the shape of a bird. Take this. It belonged to my grandmother and her grandmother before that. It's very old and very powerful. If you're in true danger, hold it tight and call on the spirits of our ancestors. They will hear you. Amara took the charm. It felt warm in her hand, like it was alive. Thank you, Grandma. Be careful, her grandmother said, gripping Amara's hand tightly. Whatever is in that forest, it's been there longer than our village, longer than any of us. It knows things we've forgotten. It's patient and clever and hungry. What is it? Amara asked. What's really out there? Her grandmother was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, a mistake. A terrible mistake made long ago by people who thought they could control magic. They built something that was supposed to protect our village, but it became corrupted. It became hungry, and now it feeds on the young and the innocent. The house was part of it? The house was just a mouth, just one way for it to feed. Now that mouth is closed, but the thing behind it is still hungry. It will try to create a new mouth, and it will use your friend to do it. Amara felt sick. How do we stop it? I don't know if you can, her grandmother said honestly. But if there's any chance, it lies in your friendship. The bond between you six is strong. Stronger than you know. That's why the house tried to break you apart. That's why it used Chioma. It feared your unity. We're not united anymore, Amara said sadly. Chioma betrayed us. Even if we save her, things will never be the same between us. True unity isn't about being perfect, her grandmother said. It's about staying together even when things are broken, even when trust has been shattered. Can you do that? Can you forgive Chioma and work together, even after what she did? Amara thought about it. She thought about all the years of friendship they'd shared. She thought about how scared Chioma must have been, trapped and alone, with the house's voice in her head. I can try, she said finally. Her grandmother nodded. Then you might just have a chance. Now go. Your friends are waiting. And Amara. She squeezed her hand one more time. Come back to me. Promise me you'll come back. I promise, Amara said. And this time she meant it. As midnight approached, Amara made her way to the edge of the village. The others were already there, each carrying a small bag of supplies. They looked scared but determined. Ready? Tund asked. Amara looked at each of them. Tund, strong and loyal. Emeka, who used humor to hide his fear. Kemi, brave despite her love of safe, quiet things. And Ngozi, who had found her courage when it mattered most. Ready, Amara said. Together, the 5 friends turned toward the dark forest. Somewhere in there, the symbols were glowing, showing them a path. Somewhere in there, their friend was trapped, her soul stolen away. And somewhere in there, an ancient evil was waiting. They took their first steps into the darkness, not knowing what they would find, but knowing they would face it together. Subscribe to this channel to support our growth and find out what happens in Chapter 3. The forest at night was completely different from the forest in daylight. Every sound seemed louder. Every shadow seemed to move. The 5 friends walked in a tight group, their flashlights cutting weak beams through the darkness. Amara led the way, following the glowing symbols on the trees. Only she could see them, which made the others nervous. "Are you sure you're seeing these symbols?" Emeka asked for the 3rd time. "Maybe you're just tired. Maybe we should go back and try again in the morning." "I'm sure," Amara said firmly. "Look, there's another one." She pointed to a tree trunk where a symbol glowed with soft blue light. The others stared hard but saw nothing except rough bark. "I don't like this," Kemi whispered. "Why can only you see them? What if it's a trap? What if whatever took Chioma's soul is leading you somewhere dangerous?" "Of course it's dangerous," Tun said. "Everything about this is dangerous. But what choice do we have? Chioma needs us." They kept walking, deeper and deeper into the forest. Amara noticed that the trees were getting older here. Their trunks were thicker, their branches twisted in strange shapes. Some of them looked like they'd been growing for hundreds of years. "We're going the wrong way," Ngozi said suddenly. "This isn't the direction of the house. We're heading east, toward the old part of the forest." "The old part?" Amara asked. "My father told me about it once," Ngozi explained. "He said when the village was first built, our ancestors cleared trees from the west side of the forest, but they left the east side alone. They said there were sacred places there that shouldn't be disturbed." "Sacred or cursed?" Emeka muttered. "Maybe both," Kemi said. A howl echoed through the trees. Not a dog's howl. Not a wolf's howl. Something else. Something that made the hair on their arms stand up. "What was that?" Tund asked, spinning around with his flashlight. "I don't know," Amara admitted. "But we need to keep moving. The symbols are getting brighter. We must be getting close to something." They walked faster now, their fear pushing them forward. The symbols on the trees were indeed getting brighter, changing from soft blue to bright silver. And there were more of them now, appearing on rocks and bushes as well as trees. After about 30 minutes of walking, they came to a clearing. In the center of the clearing stood a massive tree. Not just big, enormous. Its trunk was so wide that 10 people holding hands couldn't circle it. Its branches spread out like arms reaching for the sky, blocking out the stars. "That's the oldest tree I've ever seen," Kemi breathed. Symbols covered the tree's trunk, glowing so bright they lit up the entire clearing. But these weren't the same symbols that had led them here. These were different, more complex, more alive. "What is this place?" Ngozi asked. Amara walked closer to the tree, feeling pulled toward it. The wooden charm her grandmother had given her was warm against her chest, growing warmer with each step. "This is the source," she said quietly. "This is where the magic comes from, where it all began." As she spoke, the symbols on the tree began to move. They flowed like water, rearranging themselves into new patterns. The friends watched in amazement and fear as the symbols formed words. Words they could all read, even though they were written in the old language. 5 have come. 1 is missing. The debt remains unpaid. "What debt?" Tund called out to the tree. "We don't owe you anything." The symbols shifted again. 6 came to the house. 6 made wishes in their hearts. 5 broke free. 1 remains. The debt must be paid. "That's not true," Amara said. "Only 5 of us made wishes. I refused. I didn't wish for anything. You wished for knowledge, for power to save your friends. You wished it in your heart, even if not with your voice. All who enter the house make a wish. The debt is always created." Amara felt her stomach drop. The tree was right. When she had touched the book, even though she refused to speak a wish out loud, part of her had wanted the power to save everyone. That wanting, that desire had been enough to create a debt. "So what happens now?" Kemi asked. "What do you want from us?" The symbols rearranged themselves again, faster this time. "A choice." 6 souls entered. 6 souls must remain. 1 is already here. 5 more are needed. Or, 1 may take the place of all 6. What does that mean? Emeka asked, his voice shaking. Amara understood before the others did. It means someone has to stay here, forever, to pay the debt for all of us. 1 person willingly or all 6 of us trapped forever. Silence fell over the clearing. The weight of the choice pressed down on them like a heavy blanket. That's not fair, Ngozi said, tears in her eyes. We didn't ask for this. We didn't know about the debt. Ignorance is not innocence. You chose to enter. You chose to touch the book. Choices have consequences. There has to be another way, Tun said. There's always another way. There is no other way. This is the law. This is the balance. Magic must be fed. Debts must be paid. Amara looked at her friends. They were all thinking the same thing. She could see it in their eyes. Who would volunteer? Who would sacrifice themselves to save the others? I'll do it. Chioma's voice came from behind them. They all spun around. Chioma was standing at the edge of the clearing, but she looked different. Transparent, like she was made of mist. Her eyes were sad but clear. Chioma! Ngozi cried. Where are you? Are you here? I'm in the tree, Chioma's ghost explained. My soul is trapped inside, but I can appear like this to talk to you. I've been waiting for you to come. We're going to save you, Amara promised. We're going to get you out. Chioma shook her head. No, you're not. I'm going to stay here. I'm the one who started all this. I'm the one who betrayed you. So I should be the one to pay the price. No, Kemi said firmly. We're not letting you sacrifice yourself. You don't have a choice, Chioma said. I've already decided. Besides, someone has to stay. Better it's me than any of you. That's not how this works, Tund argued. We're a team. We make decisions together. I wasn't acting like part of a team when I brought you to the house, Chioma said bitterly. I was acting selfish. Now I can finally do something unselfish. Please let me do this. Let me make things right. The symbols on the tree began to glow brighter. The first 1 volunteers. The debt will be paid. The others may go free. Wait, Amara shouted. Just wait. Give us time to think. There has to be another option. There is no time. The moon moves toward morning. When the sun rises, the choice will be made for you. All 6 will remain forever. Amara's mind raced. There had to be a solution. There had to be something they weren't seeing. She thought back to everything her grandmother had taught her. All the old stories. All the ancient wisdom. Then she remembered something. A story about a clever child who had tricked a river spirit. The spirit had demanded payment for crossing the river. The child had agreed to pay but asked what the spirit truly wanted. The spirit, surprised by the question, admitted it was lonely. The child promised to visit and tell stories. The spirit accepted, and no payment was needed. What do you really want? Amara asked the tree. Why do you need souls? What are you actually doing with them? The symbols stopped moving. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, new words appeared. Curious child. No one has asked that question in many years. I'm asking now, Amara said. Tell us the truth. Why do you need us? I am alone. I have been alone for centuries. Long ago, the people of your village made a deal with me. They wanted protection. They wanted their crops to grow. They wanted their children to be healthy. I gave them these things. In return, they promised to visit me, to bring me offerings, to remember me. But they stopped coming, Amara guessed. They forgot. As the years passed, they forgot their promise. They forgot I existed. The loneliness grew like a poison, twisted me, changed me, made me hungry for the only thing that could remind me I was real. Souls. Human souls with their memories and dreams. So you're not evil, Kemi said slowly. You're just lonely. Loneliness can become evil. Pain can become hunger. I did not choose this, but I cannot stop it now. The debt must be paid. Amara felt a strange sadness for the tree. It had been forgotten and left alone for so long that it had turned into something dark. But underneath that darkness, there was still the original spirit. Still the being that had once helped their village. What if we made a new deal? Amara proposed. What if we promised to visit you? Not just once, but regularly. We could bring you stories. Tell you about the village. You wouldn't be lonely anymore. The symbols flickered uncertainly. Words are easy. Promises are easy. People forget. People break their promises. Not us, Ngozi said, stepping forward. We keep our promises. We came back for Chioma even though she betrayed us. That shows we don't abandon people. Or spirits. And if you do forget, if you break your promise like the others did, then you can keep Chioma, Amara said, hating the words even as she spoke them. If we break our promise, you can take her soul then. But give us a chance. Let us prove we're different. Chioma's ghost looked shocked. Amara, no. Don't make a deal like that. What if something happens? What if you can't keep the promise? We'll keep it, Amara said firmly. All of us. We'll come here once a week. We'll bring stories and news. We'll make sure you're never forgotten again. The other 4 friends nodded in agreement. Even though it was scary. Even though it meant coming back to this forest every week for the rest of their lives. They would do it to save their friend. The symbols on the tree began to swirl, moving faster and faster. The whole clearing filled with light. The friends had to close their eyes against the brightness. When the light faded, Chioma was standing in front of them. Not her ghost, but her real body. She was solid and real and breathing. I'm free, she whispered, looking at her hands. New words appeared on the tree. The deal is made. Every 7th day, at sunset, one of you must come. Bring stories. Bring memories. Bring life to this lonely place. If you forget, if you fail 3 times, all 6 souls become mine forever. We understand, Amara said. We won't forget. We promise. Good. Now go. The sun will rise soon. And children, thank you for seeing me, for asking what I wanted instead of just fearing what I could take. The symbols faded to a soft glow. The clearing seemed less scary now, almost peaceful. The ancient tree stood tall and strong, but no longer threatening. The 6 friends turned to leave, but Amara stopped and looked back. Can I ask you something? Ask. What's your name? We can't keep calling you the tree. If we're going to visit you every week, we should know your name. A sound filled the clearing. At first, it was hard to identify. Then they realized the tree was laughing. Not a scary laugh. A happy one. Surprised and pleased. No one has asked my name in 300 years. I had almost forgotten it myself. I am called Okechi. It means God's creation, in the old tongue. Nice to meet you, Okechi, Amara said with a small smile. We'll see you next week. I will be waiting. The walk home, the journey back through the forest felt different. The darkness didn't seem as threatening. The sounds of animals were just sounds, not potential dangers. The friends walked close together, processing everything that had happened. Chioma was quiet for most of the walk. Finally, she spoke. I don't understand why you all came back for me, after what I did. I don't deserve your friendship. Maybe not, Tun said honestly. But we came back anyway, because that's what friends do, Ngozi added. Even when it's hard. Even when we're angry. I'm still angry at you, Kemi said. I want you to know that. What you did was terrible. But I'm also glad you're safe. Emeka, who had been quiet, suddenly spoke up. My uncle once told me that people make mistakes. Big mistakes. Huge mistakes. But the size of the mistake doesn't define the person. How they act after the mistake, that's what shows who they really are. Chioma wiped tears from her eyes. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. All of you. I promise. You don't have to make it up to us, Amara said. You just have to be a better friend going forward. That's all we ask. They reached the edge of the village just as the first light of dawn appeared on the horizon. They were exhausted, covered in dirt and scratches, but they were together. All 6 of them. We should go home and sleep, Tun suggested. Then we need to come up with a schedule for visiting Okechi. We need to make sure we never miss a week. I'll go first, Chioma volunteered. This Sunday. I owe him it the most. We'll come with you, Amara said. At least for the first few times. Until we're all comfortable with the routine. They made plans to meet the next day and work out the details. Then they separated, each heading home. As Amara walked toward her house, she saw her grandmother standing outside, waiting. You're back, her grandmother said, relief clear in her voice. I'm back, Amara confirmed. And everyone's safe. We all came home together. Her grandmother hugged her tight. Tell me everything. So Amara did. She told her about the ancient tree named Okechi, about the loneliness that had turned into hunger, about the deal they had made. Her grandmother listened carefully, nodding at certain parts, frowning at others. You made a dangerous promise, her grandmother said when Amara finished. Visiting every week, for the rest of your lives. That's a heavy burden for children to carry. I know, Amara said, but it was the only way. And maybe it's a good thing. Maybe Okechi was right. Maybe our ancestors shouldn't have forgotten their promises. Maybe we can be the ones who remember. Her grandmother smiled, proud and sad at the same time. You've grown up so much in just 2 days. Too much, too fast. But yes, you're right. Someone needs to remember the old ways. Someone needs to maintain the balance. Will you come with us sometimes? Amara asked. To visit Okechi? Perhaps, her grandmother said. When my old bones can make the journey. But this is your promise, your responsibility. You and your friends. Over the next few days, the 6 friends met regularly to plan. They created a schedule on a piece of paper, listing who would visit Okechi each week. They decided that sometimes they would go alone, sometimes in pairs, sometimes all together. They prepared stories to share, tales from the village, news about their families, even jokes and riddles. That first Sunday, all 6 of them made the journey together. The forest seemed friendlier now, like it recognized them. When they reached the clearing, Okechi's symbols glowed in welcome. You came. You kept your promise. We told you we would, Chioma said, smiling nervously. They sat in a circle around the tree and took turns sharing stories. Emeka told jokes that made everyone laugh. Kemi shared a story from a book she was reading. Tund talked about the football match he'd played that week. Ngozi, still shy but braver now, told about helping her mother in the market. When it was Amara's turn, she shared one of her grandmother's old tales, a story about a hunter and a wise tortoise. As she spoke, she noticed the symbols on the tree moving gently, almost like Okechi was nodding along. These are good stories. They remind me of the old days, when people would gather around me and share their lives. Thank you. Same time next week? Chioma asked. I will be here. I will always be here. And now I will not be alone. As they walked back home, Amara felt something shift in her chest. The fear that had lived there since their first night in the forest was finally fading. Yes, they had made a big promise. Yes, their lives would be connected to Okechi forever now. But maybe that wasn't such a bad thing. Weeks passed. The 6 friends fell into a routine. Every Sunday, at least one of them would make the journey to visit Okechi. Sometimes it was easy. Sometimes it was hard, especially when the weather was bad or they had other plans. But they never missed a week. Slowly, things between them started to feel normal again. The anger toward Chioma faded, replaced by a cautious friendship. Trust had to be rebuilt like a wall that had been knocked down. But brick by brick, story by story, they were rebuilding it. At school, other children noticed something was different about them. They were closer than before, but also more serious. They had secrets in their eyes, knowledge that other kids didn't have. Why do you 6 always disappear on Sunday evenings? Their classmate Ada asked one day. My mother says she sees you walking toward the forest. We're just exploring, Tun said with a shrug. Looking for interesting things. Can we come with you sometime? Ada pressed. No, all 6 of them said at once. Ada looked surprised and a little hurt, but she didn't ask again. One day, about 2 months after their adventure, Amara was sitting with Okechi alone. It was her turn to visit, and the others had their own activities. She had just finished telling a story when she noticed something strange. New shoots were growing at the base of Okechi's trunk. Small trees just beginning to sprout. "You're having children?" she asked, surprised. "Not children. Extensions. I am spreading my roots, growing stronger. Your visits have given me life again. Energy. Purpose. I am healing." Amara felt a warmth in her chest. "That's good. That's really good. Amara, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Why did you save Chioma? Why did you all come back for her after she betrayed you?" Amara thought about it for a moment. "Because she's our friend. And friends make mistakes. Sometimes really big mistakes. But that doesn't mean we give up on them. We give them a chance to be better. I wish the people of your village had felt that way about me. When I started to change, when the loneliness began to make me dark, they could have come back. They could have helped me. But they just stayed away and feared me." "That wasn't fair," Amara agreed. "But maybe things happened the way they were supposed to. Maybe we were meant to be the ones who helped you, who gave you a second chance. Perhaps. Fate works in strange ways. Tell me, Amara, what do you want to be when you grow up?" It was such a normal question, so different from their usual serious conversations. Amara smiled. "I want to be a storyteller, like my grandmother. I want to keep the old tales alive and create new ones." "You will be good at that. You already are. Your words have power. Your stories have magic in them." "Really? You think so?" "I know so. I am an ancient spirit. I can sense these things. But Amara, be careful. Words have power, but power can be dangerous. Use your gift wisely." "I will," Amara promised. "I'll use it to help people, to bring them together, like stories are supposed to do." "Good. Now go home. Your grandmother is making your favorite meal tonight. I can smell it from here." Amara laughed. "You can smell what my grandmother is cooking? From all the way out here. My roots spread under the entire village. I am connected to everything. It is part of the original deal my ancestors made with your ancestors. The tree protects. The people remember. We are bound together, whether they know it or not." That was new information. Important information. "Does that mean you still protect the village? Even after everyone forgot you?" "Yes. Old promises do not die just because one side forgets them. I have kept the village safe from many dangers over the years. Storms that should have destroyed homes. Sicknesses that should have spread. Dangerous animals that should have attacked. I turned them all away, even while I was angry and lonely and hungry." Amara felt a rush of gratitude. "Thank you. Thank you for protecting us, even when we didn't deserve it." "You are welcome. Now go. Eat your dinner. And Amara, bring your grandmother next time. I would like to meet her. She has strong magic in her blood." "I will," Amara promised. As she walked home through the forest, now familiar and friendly, Amara thought about everything that had happened. They had started with betrayal and fear. They had faced ancient magic and impossible choices. But they had come through it together, stronger than before. She thought about the promise they had made. Every week, for the rest of their lives, they would visit Okechi. It seemed like a huge burden at first. But now she realized it was actually a gift. They had been given a purpose. A connection to something older and more important than themselves. When she got home, her grandmother was indeed cooking her favorite meal, jollof rice with fried plantains. The smell made her stomach growl. "How was your visit?" her grandmother asked. "Good. Okechi wants to meet you. Can you come with me next week?" Her grandmother's eyes widened in surprise. Then she smiled. Yes, I think it's time. I have things I need to say to the old spirit. Apologies to make for my generation's forgetfulness." That night, as Amara lay on her mat waiting for sleep, she thought about her friends. About Chioma, who had learned that selfish wishes lead to dark places. About Tund, who was always loyal and strong. About Emeka, who used laughter to fight fear. About Kemi, who found courage in books and friendship. About Ngozi, who discovered that being quiet didn't mean being weak. and about herself, about how she had learned that leadership sometimes meant making impossible choices. That wisdom came from listening, that power came from restraint, that the strongest magic was simply keeping your promises. Tomorrow was Monday. They would all go to school together, walking the same path they'd walked 1,000 times before. But they were different now, changed by their adventure in ways they were still discovering. The forest outside her window rustled in the night breeze. Somewhere in its depths, the ancient tree called Okechi stood guard, no longer alone, no longer forgotten. And 6 friends slept peacefully, their bond stronger than ever, ready to face whatever came next. Together. Subscribe to this channel to support our growth. One more chapter to go. The conclusion awaits in Chapter 4. 5 years later, time passed quickly in the village of Ajidai. The 6 friends grew from children into teenagers. Amara was now 17 years old, tall and confident, with eyes that held ancient wisdom. Her friends had changed too, each one growing in their own way. They had kept their promise. Every single week for 5 years, without fail, one of them visited Okechi. Sometimes they went alone, sometimes together, but they never forgot. Not once. The tree had changed as well. The small shoots Amara had noticed years ago had grown into young trees, forming a circle around Okechi. The clearing was now a proper grove, peaceful and protected. Birds nested in the branches. Small animals made their homes among the roots. Life had returned to this forgotten place. But on this particular Sunday evening, as the 6 friends gathered at the edge of the village for their weekly visit, something felt different. Wrong. Do you feel that? Ngozi asked, hugging herself. She was taller now, no longer the shy little girl she had been. But the worry in her voice was the same. Feel what? Tund asked. He had grown into the tallest of them all, with broad shoulders and a deep voice that commanded respect. I don't know, Ngozi said. Just, something's not right. Amara felt it too. A tightness in her chest. A heaviness in the air. The wooden charm her grandmother had given her years ago was warm against her skin, warmer than usual. Maybe we should all go together today, Kemi suggested. She wore glasses now and carried books everywhere she went. She had become the smartest student in their school. Agreed, Chioma said. Over the years, she had worked hard to rebuild the trust she had broken. She was kind now, always thinking of others before herself. But sometimes, in quiet moments, shadows still haunted her eyes. Emeka, who had kept his sense of humor through everything, tried to lighten the mood. What's the worst that could happen? We've faced evil spirits before. We're practically experts now. But nobody laughed. The forest ahead looked darker than usual, even though the sun hadn't set yet. They walked together in silence, following the familiar path. Over the years, their weekly visits had worn a clear trail through the forest. But today, that trail seemed harder to follow. Bushes that shouldn't be there blocked their way. Trees seemed to lean in closer than normal. Something's definitely wrong, Tund muttered, pushing aside a low-hanging branch. When they finally reached the grove, they stopped in shock. The circle of young trees around Okechi were withering. Their leaves had turned brown. Their branches drooped. And Okechi himself, the ancient tree that had stood strong for centuries, looked sick. The bark was cracking and peeling. The symbols that usually glowed with gentle light were dim and flickering. The whole grove felt cold, despite the warm evening air. Okechi, Amara called out, running forward. What's happening? What's wrong? The symbols on the tree moved slowly, weakly forming words. Danger comes, old enemy returns. What enemy? Chioma asked, her voice shaking. Tell us what's happening. The forgotten one, sealed away, long ago, breaking free, needs your help. The symbols faded completely. The tree went dark, silent. No, 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 Amara whispered, placing her hands on Okechi's trunk. Felt cold, too cold. Don't leave us, please. Tell us what to do. But there was no response. The tree was still alive. They could feel a faint pulse of life deep within, but it was too weak to communicate. What do we do? Ngozi asked, tears in her eyes. Amara closed her eyes and thought hard. 5 years of visiting Okechi. 5 years of listening to stories about the old days, about the village's history, about the magic that protected them. Okechi had told them so much. There had to be something in those stories that could help them now. Then she remembered. A story Okechi had told about 6 months ago. A story about the tree's sibling, another spirit, darker and angrier, that had been sealed away underground for trying to destroy the village instead of protect it. The forgotten one, Amara said, opening her eyes. Okechi told us about it. His brother spirit. The one that was supposed to protect the northern part of the forest but turned evil and tried to consume everything. I remember that story, Kemi said, adjusting her glasses. The village elders trapped it using a binding ritual. They sealed it in a cave somewhere deep in the forest. And now it's breaking free, Tund finished. That's why Okechi is weak. He's using all his energy to maintain the seal. But if the seal breaks completely, Chioma didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. They all knew what would happen. The forgotten one would be free. And unlike Okechi, who had only wanted company, the spirit wanted destruction. We need to strengthen the seal, Amara said. But I don't know how. Okechi never told us the details of the binding ritual. Maybe your grandmother knows, Ngozi suggested. She knows all the old stories. Amara nodded. Let's go. Quickly. They ran back through the forest faster than they'd ever moved before. The sun was setting now, painting the sky blood red. By the time they reached the village, darkness was falling. Amara's grandmother was sitting outside, as if she'd been waiting for them. One look at their faces told her everything she needed to know. It's happening, she said quietly. I felt it this afternoon. A trembling in the earth. A coldness in the air. The forgotten one is breaking free, Amara explained quickly. Okechi is too weak to stop it. Grandmother, do you know the binding ritual? Can you teach us? Her grandmother stood up slowly, her old bones creaking. The binding ritual requires 6 people. It requires blood from each person. And it requires a sacrifice. What kind of sacrifice? Chioma asked, though fear colored her voice. The ritual must be led by someone who offers their life force willingly. They pour their energy into the seal, making it strong again. But the cost? Her grandmother paused. The cost is that they become part of the seal. Their spirit joins with it, holding it closed for the next 100 years. Silence fell over the group. 100 years. Whoever performed this sacrifice wouldn't just die. They would be trapped, conscious and aware, holding back the darkness for a century. I'll do it, Chioma said immediately. I owe Okechi my life. I owe all of you my life. Let me be the one. No, Amara said firmly. We're not making that decision right now. First, we need to find the cave. We need to see how bad things are. Maybe there's another way. There is no other way, her grandmother said sadly. But you're right. Go to the cave first. I will prepare the ritual items you'll need. And children. She looked at each of them with ancient, knowing eyes. Whatever happens tonight, know that I'm proud of you. All of you. You have honored the old ways. You have kept promises that others broke. The village will remember your names, even if they never know your story. The 6 friends gathered supplies and headed north. Amara's grandmother had drawn them a map showing where the cave was located. It was in the deepest, oldest part of the forest, where even hunters rarely went. As they walked, the ground beneath their feet trembled occasionally. Cracks were appearing in the earth. Foul-smelling smoke rose from some of the cracks, making them cough and cover their noses. It's getting worse, Emeka said, his usual jokes forgotten. How much time do we have? Not much, Kemi said, consulting the map. According to this, we're close. The cave should be just ahead. They found it 10 minutes later. A massive opening in the hillside, like a giant's mouth. Symbols were carved all around the entrance, old symbols, more ancient than the ones on Okechi's trunk. But these symbols were cracked and fading. This is it, Amara said. This is where they sealed it away. A sound came from deep within the cave. A laugh, low and cruel and hungry. "Come in, little children," a voice called out. It was nothing like Okechi's voice. This voice was oil and poison. "Come and see what your ancestors created. Come and see what they were too afraid to destroy." "We're not going in there," Tund said firmly. "That's exactly what it wants." "Actually," Kemi said, still looking at the map, "we have to go in. The seal is inside the cave. That's where we need to perform the ritual." "Of course it is," Emeka muttered. "Why would anything ever be easy?" They stood at the entrance, gathering their courage. The cave was pitch black inside. Even with their flashlights, they could only see a few feet ahead. And that voice kept calling to them, mocking and tempting. "I can smell your fear," the forgotten one hissed. "I can taste it. 5 years you've been feeding my brother with your stories and your company, making him strong while I grew weaker and weaker. Do you know what it's like to be forgotten? To be the unwanted one? To be cast aside?" "We're not here to talk to you," Amara called into the darkness. "We're here to make sure you stay locked away." The laugh came again, echoing off the cave walls. "You, 6 children, you think you can stop me? I have been here for 300 years, plotting my revenge, planning what I'll do when I break free. And I will break free. Tonight. Not if we seal you first," Chioma said bravely. "Ah, the traitor," the voice said with interest. "Yes, I know you. I've been watching through the cracks. I saw what you did to your friends. How you brought them to the house as sacrifices. You and I, we're alike. We both know what it means to betray for power." "I'm nothing like you," Chioma said, but her voice shook. "Aren't you? You wanted to be special, to be important. So do I. The only difference is that I succeeded." "Don't listen to it," Amara said. "It's trying to divide us, trying to make us weak. We stay together. Always." They linked hands and stepped into the cave together. Their flashlights cut through the darkness, revealing a tunnel that sloped downward. The walls were covered in more symbols, these ones glowing with a sick green light. As they walked deeper, the voice kept talking. It spoke to each of them in turn, finding their fears and doubts. To Tund, "You're not as strong as you pretend. Deep down, you're still the scared little boy who couldn't protect his friends." To Emeka, "You hide behind jokes because you're afraid. Afraid that if people see the real you, they won't like what they find." To Kemi, "All your books and knowledge won't help you here. You can't think your way out of everything." To Ngozi, "You're still weak, still scared, still the same timid child who couldn't speak up when it mattered." To Chioma, "You'll betray them again. It's in your nature. Once a traitor, always a traitor." And to Amara, "You're not special. You're not wise. You're just a girl who got lucky. And tonight your luck runs out." But they didn't respond. They didn't argue or defend themselves. They just kept walking, hands linked, supporting each other. Finally, they reached the heart of the cave. A massive chamber opened before them with a pit in the center. Chains made of light stretched across the pit, holding something down. But the chains were breaking one by one. And in the pit, they could see it, a shape made of shadow and malice, straining against its bonds. "The forgotten one. There you are," it said, and now they could see its eyes. Hundreds of them, scattered across its formless body. "So nice of you to visit. I was getting lonely down here. We're here to seal you away for good," Amara said, though her voice trembled. "With what? The binding ritual? That requires a sacrifice, doesn't it? Which one of you will give up 100 years of life? Which one of you loves the others enough to save them?" "I will," Chioma stepped forward. "I already said I would." "No," 4 voices said at once. "Yes," Chioma insisted. "It should be me. I started all of this. When I brought you to the house 5 years ago, I broke something. This is how I fix it." "You don't have to fix everything alone," Ngozi said gently. "We're a team. We face things together." "But someone has to do it," Chioma argued. "And it should be me." "What if," Kemi said slowly, thinking out loud, "what if we all did it? Instead of one person giving 100 years, what if we each gave 20? Everyone turned to look at her. Could that work? Tund asked. I don't know, Kemi admitted. But the ritual requires 6 people and blood from each. Maybe the sacrifice can be split too. 6 people, 20 years each. It equals more than 120 years total. It should be enough. That's not how the ritual works, the Forgotten One hissed. It requires one sacrifice, one life force, one spirit to hold the seal. You don't get to tell us how our magic works, Amara said, an idea forming in her mind. The old ways are about community, about sharing burdens. One person shouldn't have to carry everything alone. That's not balance. That's not fair. She pulled out the wooden charm her grandmother had given her years ago. It was glowing now, warm and bright. We'll do it together, all 6 of us. We'll share the sacrifice equally. That's not possible. The Forgotten One raged, its voice becoming desperate. That's not how. Shut up, Emeka said, surprising everyone. He almost never got angry. You've been lying and manipulating us since we got here. We're not listening to you anymore. They formed a circle around the pit, still holding hands. Amara began to speak the words of the binding ritual that her grandmother had taught her. The others joined in, repeating after her. Their voices rose together, stronger than any one voice alone. One by one, they pricked their fingers and let drops of blood fall onto the breaking chains of light. Where the blood landed, the chains glowed brighter, stronger. No! The Forgotten One screamed. No, no, no. This isn't right. This isn't how it goes. But the ritual was working. They could feel it. Energy flowed from each of them, combining into something greater than the sum of its parts. 20 years from each of them, 20 years of life force, of youth, of vitality, poured into the seal. The cave filled with light, golden, warm light that pushed back the shadows. The chains of light multiplied, growing stronger and thicker. The Forgotten One thrashed and fought, but it was being pulled back down into the pit, deeper than before. I'll remember you, it shrieked as it was dragged down. I'll wait. I'll come back. In 120 years, I'll come back, and I'll destroy everything. In 120 years, Amara said calmly, we'll be gone. But our children and our children's children will be here. And we'll make sure they know the story. Make sure they're ready. You'll never win. The Forgotten One's screams faded as it was sealed away. The chains of light solidified, becoming stronger than ever before. New symbols appeared on the cave walls, 6 symbols, one for each of them, marking their contribution to the seal. When the light finally faded, the 6 friends collapsed to the cave floor, exhausted. They had done it. Together. The cost. The walk back to the village felt longer than it should have. Each step required effort. Their bodies felt heavier, older. When they finally emerged from the forest, they found Amara's grandmother waiting with a mirror. Look, she said gently. See what you've given. They looked. Their reflections showed the truth. They had each aged. Not a lot, they still looked like teenagers. But there were subtle changes. Lines at the corners of their eyes. A wisdom in their faces that hadn't been there before. A weariness that came from carrying responsibility. 20 years of life force didn't mean they would die 20 years earlier. It meant they had given up the carefree energy of youth. They would be more tired now. Would feel pain more easily. Would heal more slowly. In a real sense, they had become 20 years older, even though their bodies remained young. How do you feel? Amara's grandmother asked. Tired, Tund admitted. But okay. Did it work? Ngozi asked. Is it really sealed? Let's check, Amara said. They went back to Okechi's grove. The ancient tree was glowing again, bright and strong. The young trees around it had recovered, their leaves green and healthy. Life had returned. Words formed on Okechi's trunk. You did it. You saved me. You saved the village. You saved everything. We had to, Amara said, smiling despite her exhaustion. You're our friend. You paid a heavy price. 20 years from each of you. I am sorry it was necessary. Don't be sorry, Chioma said. It was our choice. And it was worth it. The 6 of you have done what generations before you could not. You worked together. Shared the burden equally. That is true strength. True friendship. What happens now? Kemi asked. Now? Now you live your lives. You have earned your rest. The weekly visits are no longer required. You have paid your debt 100 times over. But we'll still visit, Ngozi said quickly. Not because we have to, because we want to. I would like that. But come when you can, not when you must. Be free, my friends. You have earned your freedom. 20 years later, time moved forward. The 6 friends grew into adults. They married, had children, built lives. But they never forgot their promise. Even though Okechi said it wasn't necessary, they still visited the grove regularly. Amara became a famous storyteller, just as Okechi had predicted. She traveled to other villages, sharing tales of magic and friendship. But she always came back home, always returned to the grove. Tund became the village's strongest farmer, using his strength to help others. Emeka opened a small shop where people gathered to laugh and share stories. Kemi became a teacher, passing her knowledge to the next generation. Ngozi, who had once been so shy, became the village elder, wise and fair in her judgments. And Chioma ran an orphanage, caring for children who had no one else, making sure no child ever felt as lost and desperate as she once had. And their children, they grew up hearing stories about the ancient tree in the forest, about magic and sacrifice, about friendship that could overcome any challenge. One day, when Amara's daughter was 10 years old, she asked, Mama, can I come with you to visit Okechi? Amara smiled. Yes, I think it's time. You need to learn the old ways, to understand the balance. So the next generation began visiting the grove, learning the stories, making their own promises. And when the 6 friends grew older than they would have been if not for their sacrifice, they watched their children and grandchildren continue the tradition. They had started with betrayal, with fear and selfishness, but they had transformed that darkness into something beautiful, something lasting. On the evening of Amara's 60th birthday, though her body felt closer to 80, all 6 friends gathered at the grove one last time together. They sat in a circle just as they had done so many times before. Do you ever regret it? Chioma asked. Giving up those 20 years? They thought about it. 20 years they could have had. 20 more years of youth and energy and ease. No, Amara said finally, and the others nodded in agreement. Those 20 years bought peace, safety. It bought time for our village to survive and thrive. It was worth every second. You have all lived good lives. Okechi's symbols glowed warmly. Long lives, despite the cost. You have children and grandchildren. You have made a difference. When your time comes to rest, know that you will not be forgotten. Neither will you, Amara promised. We've taught our children your story. They'll teach their children. You'll never be forgotten again. Thank you, my friends, for everything, for seeing me, for saving me, for loving me. Thank you, they replied, for saving us too. As the sun set on that beautiful evening, 6 old friends sat beneath an ancient tree, their hands linked as they had been linked so many times before. They shared stories and laughter. They remembered adventures long past. They celebrated the life they had built together. And in the village of Ajadai, children played safely in the streets, never knowing about the darkness that had once threatened them, never knowing about the 6 friends who had given up part of their lives to keep them safe. But the stories survived, passed down from parent to child, from grandmother to grandchild, stories about friendship and sacrifice, about magic and responsibility, about 6 young people who faced impossible choices and found the courage to do what was right. And somewhere in those stories, in whispered words and quiet lessons, the truth lived on. That real strength comes from unity. That true power comes from sacrifice. That the best magic is simply keeping your promises and standing by your friends, no matter what the cost. The village of Ajadai prospered. The forest remained peaceful, and the ancient tree called Okechi watched over them all. Never alone, never forgotten, forever grateful for the 6 friends who had changed everything. 115 years later, a group of 6 young friends stood at the edge of Ajadai village, looking nervously toward the forest. They were the great-great-grandchildren of the original 6, though they didn't all know each other yet. They had been drawn together by dreams. Strange dreams about a cave and a voice calling from underground. Dreams about chains breaking and darkness rising. The oldest one, a girl named Adiz who looked remarkably like Amara once did, held a wooden charm that had been passed down through her family. It was warm against her skin, glowing. "We need to go into the forest," she said to the others. "Something's coming. Something's waking up." The others nodded. They had all felt it. The trembling earth, the cold wind, the sense of ancient danger stirring. "My great-great-grandmother left me a book," said a boy who looked like Tund. "It tells a story about 6 friends and an evil spirit sealed in a cave. It says the seal would last for 120 years. That's in 5 years." A girl with Kemi's intelligent eyes calculated quickly. "5 years to prepare," said another who had Emika's smile. "Better than no warning at all." They looked at each other, these 6 strangers who were about to become friends, who were about to embark on their own adventure, who would face their own tests and make their own sacrifices, because that's how it worked. That's how it had always worked. Generation after generation, standing against the darkness, keeping the balance, honoring the old ways. The cycle would continue. The story would go on. And in the grove, Okechi watched and waited, ready to guide these new 6 friends just as he had guided the ones before. The adventure was just beginning. The end. Thank you for following this journey. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel to support our growth and see more stories like this one.